Board games, it's what we're talking about. Board games, I'm not gonna shout. I am starting off this streaming with a little bit of singing, and over here to this side of me is the person known as Emily, as you can read in the box below. And now Emily will say hello.
Hello.
Emily is very obliging. Emily has done some publishing. Emily has done many things. But today I don't know whether Emily will sing.
You don't want to hear that, trust me.
Board games, it's what we're talking about. Board games, I'm not gonna shout. Hey! Good morning, and morning, Alex, and morning, Sate. It is lovely to see you both, and morning, Alan Outson. Lovely to see you. And just to say that, as always, I am Bez. It is in parts of the world, it is bedtime, and we are going to be blethering about board games. And today we are going to be talking about post-maternity gaming, which is about getting back into games for work and for pleasure after having a child. And yeah, we can properly get into that in a minute. But first of all, oh my gosh, we forgot to decide what is a brilliant thing. Brilliant thing, what's a little thing which is brilliant?
Am I going first?
Well, normally we just have the one brilliant thing.
Oh.
So normally we decide between ourselves before the start of the show, but I completely
we got too
forgot.
distracted.
This is, tying back into my disorganization that we talked about. I just kind of rely on my guests to keep me organized, which some things works and some things doesn't, and that's why I kind of have the big list of this is what we're on about. Maybe unless you have something particular, I'm going to choose language.
Oh, mine's much less fun. I had a really nice oat milk latte this morning.
Oh no, that would be a recent highlight.
Oh, it would, wouldn't it?
So let's just go with language. I'm going to put my foot down. I hope this doesn't sound too tutorial, but it is my stream. And today, for a brilliant thing for 1 minute, we are going to talk about language. I mean, particularly, I want to talk not just like about the whole language, about written language and spoken language, but I want to talk about words. Like, I mean, it's just, I mean, I guess, wow, language is just such a big concept. I mean, in theory, images are a form of language. It's a form of communication. You've got body language, you've got gestures, you've got so much language. I mean, language, without a form of communication, we would just be like going around doing our own things and never interacting with other people, really. And that wouldn't be as much fun, would it?
Even sign language as well, which is something I really wish I could learn.
Oh, we had a suggestion that sleeping is indeed brilliant. That could be a future thing. I might pick that for next time we don't have anything, but today we're talking about language. So, everyone in the chat, feel free to give your reasons for why you think language is brilliant. What's your favorite word? Do you have a favorite word in any language? And good morning, Andrew January. It's lovely to see you. My favorite, I mean, people talk about cellar door being the most beautiful thing. Oh, little bit cuts off. Words are brilliant. Without words, we wouldn't. I see what you've done there. Very clever.
Alan's up to their old tricks.
Alan's got a devious mind. Alan. Okay, so yeah, I think we've agreed that language is brilliant, and there's so many so many things that we can appreciate in language. We can share our joys. We can warn other people from things. We not only learn things ourselves, but we can teach other people. And, we can become better and hopefully it just gives way to the scientific method, and about tracking things and then trying things, and yeah, oh my gosh, um, I would turn on emoji only chat. I mean, emojis are a form of language, though, aren't they? And
Yeah.
even this is a form of communication. I mean, I know that Alan hasn't actually done semaphore, or Morse code here, but like even that deviation into those dots, those dashes, is a very deliberate choice of how you communicate. So yeah. Well. Anyway, so yeah, do you have anything more to say about language?
It just, yeah, you summed it up really well. And I think you haven't even gone into like other languages either, which is something I just don't have a brain for other languages. It just doesn't like fit in my head. But yeah, like especially what Alan said, like we both knew what they meant, even though there was no language like
Hmm.
traditionally.
And good morning, Javier. It's lovely to see you. I will ask your question in a brief moment. Um, but actually, yeah, what? Let's throw caution to the wind. Even though we've not even got into the questionably quick questions. Are you familiar with the One Board Family podcast? I am vaguely familiar, but apparently
I'm
there's a
not.
section called Rick Talks About Board Games While Holding a Baby, where
Yeah,
Rick
that's
talks
really
about board games that are suitable to play whilst holding a baby.
mm. Yeah, we have tried that a couple times and it's been okay. The cat causes more trouble than the baby does. But there's also a blog called uh two moms game, I think it is. And it's
Hmm.
two mums who have two babies, and they have a whole review blog, and a section of it is on like how does it fit in between nap times and like how involved can kids be. And it's something I hadn't seen before. That's I think it's really smart.
Hmm. Do you know Kelly and Becky of Breakfast Boards Games in Bed?
No, I don't.
So it almost feels quite voyeuristic, to be honest. Um, like listening to their podcast, it's this weekly podcast where Becky and Kelly talk about, okay, here's a game that we've been playing, and then you can listen to all the back episodes. And I met them at Norwich before they had a baby, and then I met them at Norwich a year afterwards, after they
Mm,
had a baby, and their podcast had, you know, was a lot less frequent, let's say. So
hmm.
maybe instead of being every couple of weeks, it was like maybe every 4 months kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then, but yeah, it was really interesting kind of chatting to them, and they did agree to do a review of a game for me, which I was very honored because I think they've done a proper review of about 3 games ever. But they gave a proper review of the deluxe edition of the L deck, and then they pointed out, yeah, um, Wibble, it's a good game, but it's terrible. If you've got a sleeping baby, you've got to shout. What's all that about? And these are the kind of
Yeah.
accessibility issues that maybe we don't always think of as designers.
Mm.
That's, I guess, we will get into in a wee minute, because you know, we're we're just going off script, aren't we?
We're
Like,
feeling rebellious today.
yeah, like a baby.
Yeah.
um, recent highlights, living life and seeing the sights. For example, games. What we've been playing, what are their names, games, and recent highlights. I'm trying to mash together the two songs into one. It's not quite working. But basically, what are your recent highlights? What have you enjoyed recently? What games have you been playing? I will go first just to set the tone and the speed. I have been playing a lot of games yesterday. Oh my gosh, so many that I actually need to bring up this list. Okay, so we were playtesting a whole bunch of games for the L deck, 4 of the competition entries. We played Decryptable, which we liked, but not a lot. And it had some issues. Unescapable. Sorry, Decryptable is kind of a guessing what word someone is trying to make with things, and then yeah, unescapable is making words and trying to navigate a labyrinth. You can move into adjacent things that match the border or a letter, and you want to go to the higher numbers, but you want to not get your little piece captured, which is an interesting thing. You're trying to not get trapped. We played Listable, which was a two-player cooperative game, which I am going to play test with Chris for the sake of it, but it's probably the not in the top 9 of this year's games, but the standout highlights of the day for us was Death Knell, which was a social deduction memory game using the L deck, where you're kind of the suits with diagonals cause death, the suits with circles cause our curing. So we're all mixing drinks as spies and kind of trying to remember, what have people picked up? Was that secure that they put down, or was it poison? And then you don't quite know, but you're mixing these drinks, and then you're telling other people to drink them. And if you drink free, it's 2 teams. If your team drinks free good drinks, then you win. If your team drinks free bad drinks, then you lose. And so that was my thing, and that was part of my recent highlight, just having Chris, Layla, and also meeting Ali, and making a meal, enjoying it. And so that was it. And also speaking to McCall. McCall is a lovely friend who you might have seen at the end of yesterday's stream. And then we were chatting on the phone for about an hour because even though we live like 15-minute cycle away, sometimes you want to chat on the phone. So McCall was in their bedroom. I was walking around an empty field. And that was a very nice way to spend the evening. So what are your recent highlights?
Well, I played Glenmore and Lowlands a couple nights ago because we've had them for a while, but like I haven't had the brain energy to play them because they're a little bit heavier. But I really enjoyed Lowlands. That was really fun. I really liked the mechanic of how like you're building up the dike to stop the plains from flooding, and you have your cute little sheep meeples. I was a fan of that. Glenmore, I don't know. I massively beat Lewis, and I just found it a bit easy. So I don't know if I play that again. I think he wants to try and like reclaim his pride, but we'll see.
So you actually like a game that you can be beaten at?
I mean, I love Suburbia, but Lewis usually beats me. I think it feels more challenging. It's like I want to like do better every time I play. Like if I win straight away, it's less of a challenge.
So what you're saying is that we are having Lewis on in 2 days' time, so I will kind of talk about this rivalry with Lewis. But it sounds like what you're saying is that if Lewis can beat you, you're less interested in the game.
No, more interested.
If you can beat Lewis, you're less interested in the game.
I think so.
Lewis
Although
isn't a good enough competitor.
well, sometimes he's better than he was. Like now, like we're very close in score usually when we play. But we do I get quite competitive. I think we were playing Tiny Towns a week or so ago, and he'd like messed up his board, so he was just sabotaging me, and he just kept saying a material that would stop me from being able to finish, and I like got genuinely a little bit angry at him because I was doing so well. And then he beat me because of the sabotage, and I was quite upset.
I mean, that's what you need to do in a 2-player game. 2-player games become as much about picking on the other person as they are about helping yourself, because you look at any game, like, I mean, I keep talking about the Grit Club because that's one where if you've got at one extreme 5 players, 4 players, you want, okay, if you block one person, well, you've still got 3 other competitors to deal with. But if you are then thinking about, okay, what are they doing? Not only what's good for me, but how can I get in their way? And then if I deny my opponent 5 points, that is equal in quality to me gaining 5 points. That's just the way that a 2-player game is. Alex says this is why I prefer the Town Hall version.
Is that Tiny Towns?
I think, Tiny Towns, where you play it, it's massively multiplayer. It's when it's kind of zero interaction.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know there was a version like that.
But Yeah, we've also had other shouts out in the chat. Feel free to share your recent highlights. Um, we said that shouting around sleeping babies can be good, helps them sleep with more noise around them in the future. My
Luckily,
mum,
Rowan is a super heavy sleeper.
I'm glad to hear that. That's really lucky for you. Um, I turned out really normal. What does that even mean? Um, and Alan is suggesting games and highlights, playing, enter game here and seeing the sites. But then I'd have to list all the games.
That would be
But
long.
um, yeah, you draw the cards for resources.
Oh,
Yeah, the
okay.
way that you play in Losapalooza is not the normal way. And a recent highlight: youngest son is back to school today. Congratulations, Alan. And I hope that you are enjoying a wee bit of quiet. I don't know. Maybe you are. Maybe I. Yeah. I hope that they are enjoying their day back at school. And so I hope that everyone has been enjoying things. And now, with that said, we've got whoops, highlights. Oh, I'm sorry. Like lots of love. I mean, I hope that you enjoyed Losapalooza, or I don't know, maybe yeah, Xate had Losapalooza do a thing for them. I mean, that was relatively recent. I think that was only 2 days ago, and so that was a highlight. I imagine. I'm just kind of pushing that out there because I know, yeah, but I mean, not every day can be the best. But yeah, it was a summer holiday, but let's get back to the thing. So let's get to our questionably quick questions. What time did you wake up, Emily?
7:30.
Did you have breakfast?
Not straight away, but yes, I did have breakfast.
And what was it? What was the last thing you ate?
Peanut butter on toast.
Is this a usual delight?
Yeah, usually.
Iced coffee or hot tea?
Iced coffee.
What's a good thing to eat or drink whilst playing games?
We have some like cashews and raisins
Mm,
that we usually eat.
I like that kind of dry and doesn't give too much grease on it. So yeah.
Nothing sticky.
Yeah, cashews are definitely better than peanuts in that way. Who's the last person that you spoke to in person?
Lewis.
Okay. Do you speak to Rowan often?
Yeah, we usually have a little chat.
Books or podcasts?
Podcasts.
What was the last podcast you listened to?
I last listened to an old episode of The Adventure Zone by the McElroys.
Okay. Could you describe the Adventure Zone in 5 words?
The best thing ever. Love.
Wow. Okay.
I'm such a
That's
huge
pretty
fan.
high praise. Are you saying that
Yeah.
it is the best thing ever loved?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. What was the last physical game you played?
It was Lowlands.
What was your favorite color to play?
Yellow.
Cards or cubes?
Cards.
Wooden meeple or plastic figurine?
Wooden maple.
And would you rather have a card stand E or a plastic figurine?
Figurine.
Okay. I see behind you that you stack your games in a variety of ways. That used to be a question, but can you? Yeah, I'm not going to even bother asking that question anymore. It's just a terrible question. Art or rules?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Art or rules?
Art.
Oof. Free games that you love.
Suburbia, Ruthless, Tiny Towns.
Oh. And um, favorite board game shop, or at least a board game shop you want to give a shout out to?
To be honest, I went to one in Amsterdam and I can't remember the name of it. Our local board game shop is Forbidden Planet. We're not very lucky where we are with actual like local friendly game stores.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. can I ask you to describe a typical day like recently in as much or as little detail as you would like?
Well, Lewis and I take shifts of who looks after Rowan at night and then in the morning. So if it's my shift, I'll get up in the morning, I'll feed Rowan. He's now having solid food now, so it's a lovely amount of mess and a fair bit of vomit that we're dealing with. Feed him, he'll chill out, go on his playmat for a little while. I'll probably do some work for Braincrack, picking up some emails, have some lunch. Then sometimes we are a little bit cheeky and take a half day and spend the afternoon playing games, which is what we did on Monday, even though, yeah, that was a bank holiday, but we didn't take it as a bank holiday. And then we'll have some dinner and maybe watch a film in the evening and then go to bed.
Oh, that sounds lovely. And hello, Maggie. It is lovely to see you with us. And feel free to ask questions along the way from Javier. We've got teaching a game or learning a game.
I think I prefer teaching.
And big box or tiny box.
I think tiny box. I'm usually impressed by how much like it can actually fit in, especially if you've got components in a really small box as well.
Now, that brings us to the end of our questionably quick questions, but feel free to continue asking questions, having your chat, or making comments. I will put up anything that feel like we're responding to, both so that people after this can see everything and feel free to follow all that stuff. And as I said at the start, today I'm talking to Emily Shaw about getting back to work and board gaming after having a child. And so, yes, that is what we are talking about. So let's, normally I go through the definition, pros, pitfalls, and tips. And so, in the absence of any framework, can you, tell us, what are we talking about? I mean, hopefully people understand how sex works and how
Yeah, I
birth
hope I don't need
works.
to go into that.
And I don't think we're going to go into the magic of conception or anything like that. This is out with the remits of this show. But having can you in as much or as little detail as you would like, talk about how old is Rowan, by the way, your wing?
So Rowan is now 7.5 months old, but he was born 3 months early. So effectively, he's a 4 month old.
Okay, wow. So I know my sibling and their partner, their twins had birth also only 2 months early, so that wasn't even nearly as bad. But that's quite unusual for a single baby.
Yeah, I know twins are usually at higher risk of being born early. There was no reason for Rowan to be born. He just decided that he was bored and wanted to come out, which we weren't fans of, to put it lightly. But yeah, so basically, we started Braincrack Games in 2016. At the time, both of us were working full-time jobs, so like this was very much like a side project, and so was board games. We probably didn't play as many as we wanted to. Then in July last year, I got a promotion at my actual job, and so my time with board games got even less, and my stress got even more. So I was like really not playing any games at all. Lewis really had to like push to get me to play something. Then Rowan arrived. I played a couple of games while I was in hospital. We played Cat Cafe by Alley Cat Games and Railroad Inc. As you can tell, I like roll and writes. Then for the first while he was still in hospital, we didn't really play much because, you're thinking about other stuff. He came home, we went to go stay with my parents, and suddenly we were like, we have time to like play games. So I think the first game we actually played was Sumo Gnomes by Peculiarity.
Mm.
And then since then, I've just been like devouring games as quickly as I can. Like I've just really got the joy from them back because I
Hmm.
just kind of lost interest, really.
I think, yeah, so there's a lot to unpack here. There's like obviously the time that this takes away from you. There's the privilege of having someone like parents or grandparents. I mean, like parents of the parents, which are grandparents,
Mhm.
who are going to be helping out, or alternatively, you might be able to find other people to help out. Um, you so Alan Outson has a question about your maternity. Again, with all of the questions, you're welcome to pass.
That's
But
okay.
yeah, did you have maternity leave from your other job, or did you change jobs?
So I'm still in, well, still technically in the same job that I was in, and I'm on maternity leave until January. So yeah, and then I'm like, I just don't know how to take a break. So I'm
Hmm.
still working for Braincrack at the same time.
So it sounds like, and just to put it in full perspective, if we can talk about Lewis for a moment,
Mhm.
they also kind of run two jobs, Braincrack, and um, they work as a graphic designer in general.
So Lewis actually went full time with Braincrack at the same time as I got the promotion last year. So since July last year, he's been full time with Braincrack and he's not doing anything else.
Okay, so basic at this moment, presumably Lewis is loving having you kind of just continuing working.
Yes, yeah, I'm picking up a lot of stuff that he hasn't had the time to do.
And from what I know of you both, because just to put it in full perspective, I don't know when did we meet? Like, was it maybe 5 years ago or something? We've met within the.
I think we met at the industry meetup that Pete at ITB had at his old flat.
Hmm,
I think that's the first time I met you.
that's quite possible. Maybe that 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, it was probably 5, I think.
And so I've seen Emily and Lewis around lots of different conventions and with amazing stuff going on, and obviously signing up games from a host of different designers. And yeah, I know that you're a lovely couple and you're very caring, and it feels like you've got lots of good communication going, which is
Mm.
the key of it. So the question is, yeah, can you talk to me a little bit about that support that you're giving each other, if you know what I mean, and that distribution of labor?
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're quite unusual as like a couple with a baby. Um but ever since we first started dating, we've always been like super honest with each other and super open. Mostly because, we both have like struggles with our mental health, and if you're not open with your partner about that, then it's very difficult for them to support you, and then like a rift can start happening. So yeah, we've always been very open and communicated really well. Obviously this year has been a challenge because it's really like pushed us to our limits. Yes, it is 100%. Honesty is like really, really important. um so with Braincrack, at first, like there was kind of a more split, like I do this, you do that. So Lewis was very focused on design and I did like admin and accounts. That was right at the beginning. Then obviously I like dropped out a little bit. Lewis picked up a little bit more and went full time, and then he was trying to do everything, which
Hmm.
is really difficult. So we actually brought on some freelancers to help out with development. We've got a bookkeeper now, we have an accountant, like there's people picking up stuff where we need help. So now I'm back involved. I'm doing more of like a community managing social media, like convention stuff, but then I'm also working and doing some playtesting. So it's a really good like mix of stuff. So now there's a really good split. Like we take it in turns looking after Rowan at night and in the morning. During the day, like if one of us has meetings, then the other looks after Rowan. And it's just about like saying, look, I'm really tired. Can you help this evening, even though I know it's my turn? So it's kind of like it's working really well. Like we have a really good balance, and we're really lucky. Because like Lewis will take Rowan to hospital appointments and stuff, and the nurses will say like, "Oh, you've earned daddy points today," and then it's like if I take them, I don't get told I've earned mummy points. I'm just like, yeah, you should be here. So I think like especially from like speaking to nurses and people like that, like it's not normal to have Lewis as involved as he is. But honestly, I couldn't cope if he wasn't. It just wouldn't work.
And you're right that there is this weird difference in that, okay, not only is one parent potentially growing, the child inside them physically, and, that's in itself, from what I hear, can be very physically and emotionally draining.
Mm.
And then at the end, they're expected to do basically 95% of the work. And that's a really horrible thing that society still propagates. I mean, yeah, what you said about earning, yeah, you've earned daddy points. I mean, I don't know, maybe that kind of language is sadly needed to encourage people to come. But like, I know that, okay, I just want to say that also, this is a complete tangent for 2 minutes because we're all about the tangents here. By the way, I didn't check in with you. How much time do you have? I'm going to try to finish this at my usual 90 minutes.
Yeah. I booked out that time.
Okay, great. So yeah, basically, I went to a Zumba class, and I don't even identify as a man. And so I went to this Zumba class, and then, yeah, the teacher said, "Hey, it's great to see a guy joining us."
Mm.
And that made me feel really uncomfortable. And and yeah, I, it took maybe a couple of weeks to go back, as opposed to maybe half a week, because it used to be every twice a week. And I kind of, at the end, I went back, and then after like being there for maybe 5 classes, I kind of said to the teacher at the end, "Hey, just to let you know, this kind of affected me in this way, and just as a for your information, please don't say this to people, because A, maybe they don't identify as a guy, and B, being singled out in that way isn't necessarily the positive affirmation that you think it might be." And
No.
so saying to someone, "Hey, you've got daddy points," you might think, okay, that's going to encourage them to do it more, but maybe it makes them think, hey, I don't need to do it so much because I've got daddy points. Or maybe it
Yeah.
makes them think, oh, I'm being a bit condescending. I'm not going to go in. And so,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think it's really frustrating. Because it's also I was reading a blog on yes, this irritates me. Thankfully, no one has said that to Lewis yet. The like babysitting. It's like no, they're your child. Yeah, I was reading a blog on like weaning babies. And there was this headline in this well no subheading in this blog from 2019 saying, "Does daddy need to be involved?" It's like, yes, like what? No, he needs to go sit in another room in the dark while you spoon feed your baby puree. It's
I mean,
just,
God, that sounds like something
oh,
from the Victorian
I
era.
know. I couldn't believe it. I was so like I get really like pent up about this sort of stuff. Like if there's something isn't fair or equal, I get like really annoyed, and I just showed Lewis, and he was like, I'm guessing I don't get a choice in that. I was like, no, you give him bottles. Why wouldn't you also give him food? There's no reason that a dad shouldn't be involved in that process.
Hmm. I mean, yeah. It's I mean, obviously, breastfeeding isn't something that the dad can do,
No.
but maybe surely anything else.
Yeah. I think that's part of the issue is like that initial like this is how the baby is fed is like so like mother orientated. You can pump and then they can give them breast milk, which I think is really important, but it puts so much pressure on the mum to do 100% everything all the time. And I think if you aren't honest with your partner and say that you need them to do more, they're just going to be like, "Oh, she's got it. Oh, mum's
Mm.
fine. I'll just go back to work and crack on." Which I think is what happens is like if you don't have that honesty saying like I can't cope and I need help, they're just going to check out.
So I think that again we come back to what we were saying earlier about yeah communication and dishonesty and being in touch with each other and being supportive. And so I think that yeah so let's talk about games because ostensibly this is a board game show, right? And so we talked a little bit. Oh, Javier just wants to say quickly that the City of Masks quiz you ran was really well thought out and challenging.
Thank you so much. That's really nice. I was really happy with how that quiz turned out.
Um, so yeah, we've got yeah, I wanted to forward Maggie's question, who says, "Do you like to find an engine for points whilst you play, or do you like to have a more directed strategy from the beginning?"
I don't tend to have strategies from the beginning, and if I do, I tend to adapt it as I go along. So I think I'm probably more in the first category because I really enjoy engine builders. They're like probably one of my favorite types of games. So I think I like to find a way that gets me points, and then like if that stops working or if I see something that might like be more rewarding, then I'll like change my tactics partway through. I think Splendor's a really good example of that. Because if you get too fixated on like one card, before you know it, half the game is gone and you've not got enough points at all. You really need to be able to like change the direction you're going in very quickly with that game.
And um, just as another tangent, Javier says, "I wish other companies would do the same kinds of competitions instead of merely retweets this to win competitions," which I absolutely agree with. I will say that, bigging up myself, I like to believe, done some interesting competitions, which I know that Xate needs to get their prize, which I need to create, which is going to take me a bit of time, but I will get there, Xate, I promise. And please be patient. Thank you for that. But yeah, with when it's just okay giving a game away, it's more like okay, here's some L cards. What's a let's play one round of phrasal online. What's a good
Mm.
phrase that you can come up with these things? And if you come up with any phrase, it's not about you'll enter a prize draw basically. But I think that's what works really well for your mask City of Masks quiz was the fact that you got everyone else involved, and I'm like with a little bits of their artwork, and it does give me a tiny idea for something that maybe I could do, but I'm not going to say any more. Um, but you will hear about it within the next 2-3 months. So thank you for that idea. Anyway, so getting to the how can it be good is like, why are games good? Why do you
Mm.
think that games are a valuable thing, not just to enjoy in life, but to engage with after you've had a child for both parents?
I think before Rowan came along, it was like a case of like it was a community thing and it was a way to like have fun and connect with people. That's what we used games as before. Now Rowan is here, I think I like went through like 6, 7 months of like just not really thinking. Like other than looking after
Mm.
Rowan, I didn't really think at all. And my job was like quite technical and like very like spreadsheet number orientated. And I just like lost that completely. I
Oh.
like couldn't do any of it. Um, so I think that what games are helping me do is like reawaken that part of my brain that like enjoys puzzles and enjoys thinking and it's like wanting to be challenged. And I think I've recently really got an itch for like heavier games.
Mm.
And it's definitely like pushing me to put my creativity and like my like technical thinking skills into action. Whereas before I was just stagnating, really.
I mean, there's definitely one kind of energy and one kind of, um, challenge that you get in raising a child, for
Mm.
sure.
But
Certainly
it's a
do.
repetitive challenge.
Yeah, and I speak as someone who has, not been like the primary caregiver at any point, but, spent, let's say, maybe a month as a secondary caregiver.
Mhm.
Because, yeah, there was a point where, the parents were kind of getting ready for a flat and they were my siblings. So I was down. That's actually how I came down to London, because one of my eldest sibling had, yeah, child. They needed someone to take care of them. I didn't have a job, and yeah, they kind of were trying to move into a new place and sort out the new place. So there was a lot of work
Mm.
involved in that,
Mhm.
plus doing their actual job, if you know what I mean.
Oh gosh,
So there
yeah.
was a lot on top of everything. But yeah, so I I've not been in your position, and I don't want to try to mansplain anything, because anyone can mansplain something, as we've established with
It's
a
a
test.
it's a skill rather than a gender specific skill.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I guess what I'm saying is that I have a tiny snippet of what it
Mm.
might be like, and certainly I found it can be incredibly draining and
Mm.
exhausting
Mhm.
and tiring. It takes a lot of skill, it takes a lot of focus, but as you say, it's all about repetition,
Mm.
um, and actually communicating with an adult, actually chatting, even having a conversation with an adult, um, can go so far to nourish your mind
Mhm.
and to exercise you in a different way. Because, yeah, those short bursts of energy of when they're a little bit older, running around the room and then you stop, running around the room and then you stop, and doing that every like 5 minutes or whatever. Oh my gosh. And but that doesn't mean that you don't necessarily want to have a long run, because a long run is in itself a totally different muscle. And in the same way,
Experience. Yeah.
with your mind, yeah, you've got to be focused, but maybe you want to focus on a game, or maybe you're chatting to them, but you want to chat with an adult who will actually have an intelligent conversation with you back. And in some ways, a game is like a conversation.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I think it was very, very difficult when Rowan first came home because he'd gone from this environment where he had like constant supervision, whether by like machines or nurses, and then suddenly you've got this like absolutely tiny baby and you have to look after him all on your own after all those months in hospital. Um, and so your brain is like running at 500 miles an hour, like thinking, oh my God, is this going wrong? Is this going wrong? Is this going wrong? Is he hungry? Is he too hot? Is he too cold? Does he need a nappy change? Is he tired? Is he bored? Like, just insane amount of like energy you're pouring into just worrying about this tiny baby. And then add into the fact that we had lockdown going on, so we were told that we needed to shield Rowan, so we couldn't see anyone. And actually, the month before he came home, I was the only person allowed to visit him in hospital. So Lewis hadn't seen him for a month. Um, and we just got to this point, like a couple of weeks in, where we were like, we aren't coping. Like, this isn't healthy. If we carry on, like, something is going to go wrong because we're like getting 4 hours sleep and permanently worried about everything. And like, suddenly, everything that you've experienced for the last 3 months hits you. Like, you're back home and everything is how it should be after you've had a baby. And all you can look at is all the things that aren't the way a normal baby is, or all the way like things you're feeling aren't normal. And it just like it was like a tidal wave just like washed over us and we were completely overwhelmed, so we had to decide to go and stay with my mum and dad, even though that was like breaking the shielding rules. But we just had to weigh up, like, do we keep doing this and risk our mental health, or do we go stay with people who can support us and like take a small risk with regards to like COVID? So we took the small risk, and thankfully it was fine. And we've been home for probably a month and a half now after that, and it's much better. But yeah, it's just exhausting. Like, you just can't do anything else. You have no energy. Like, putting a wash on is a challenge.
For sure,
So
like all these constant comparisons, these like it's that in itself is terribly anxiety inducing.
mm, yeah, it's something. It was very, very difficult. And it's like what we're still dealing with at the moment, because he's still on oxygen, so he still doesn't look like a normal baby. So it's like constantly your brain is like looking for problems, looking for problems, looking for problems. And it's like, in all that, how do you find the time to even like play Uno? We couldn't, like, we just couldn't do it. But that first game of Sumo Gnomes, I couldn't understand the rules. I was like, I just couldn't get my brain into that like mode of like how to play games. And Sumo Gnomes is a simple game. You roll dice and then you see if you can move the other player off the board. And I was sat there and I was like, Lewis, I need you to explain it again. I don't get it. Um, but then once I broke down that wall, like that sort of like urge to play games like came back. And it's just been like cascading ever since. And now I've like just wanting to buy all the games, which is dangerous on maternity pay.
Yeah. I mean, Sumo by Robbie Munn. Yeah, lovely. Seems like a lovely person.
Oh,
Um,
he's really nice, yeah.
and yeah, so hi Robbie, if you're watching. Um, and so we've talked about the fact that it's challenging, but in a good way, because
Mm,
as humans, I mean, we can see challenges as you don't want to be challenged to breaking points, puts it that way. I mean, but challenges within a certain limit are always a good thing,
mm,
surely. So that's what games are almost. Like it's challenges, but within a safe space. Because
yes.
the lovely thing of games, as Raf Koster says, as in a theory of fun, the whole point is that okay, you've got this you can mess up. It's a way of learning, and learning itself is fun. Exercising your mind is fun. If you say, hey, it's safe to do so, if something goes wrong, then you're within the magic circle and you step back. We accept, we congratulate the winner, we
Hmm.
kind of commiserate the loser potentially if we want, but hopefully it's just, yeah, congratulations. Now we move on to the next game, we play again, wipe the slate clean, and we try again. And the important thing is to not have too much ego in it, I think.
Yes.
That generally, when you're playing games, I've seen some people, especially people who don't play games very often, who do get a very invested and think, oh, if I lose, then that means that I'm a bad person. Oh,
Mm,
if I win, then that means that I'm a better person, which is just not true. It's like, okay, what it means is that on this particular day, even if it's a super strategic game, even if we're playing Energy Empire because it's still over there, and I should probably start talking about a different game, otherwise, you know. But yeah, even if it's okay, a fairly strategic game, then we'll be like, okay, it just means that on this day, given the way that these cards came out, given the decisions you made, you performed better. Even if it's the most strategic game like Go, I should start
mm,
talking more about Go because that is an actual strategic game where there's zero luck. And even there, it just means that's okay. Even though there's no luck, there's nothing to say, oh, yes, it was down to the way the cards came up or whatever. It's just, okay, that's the way, that's how it was on this day, on that particular
mm.
playthrough. And even if it is true that I'm better at Go than you, or you're better at Go than me, that doesn't define our entire personality.
I think it's that it's like you can explore like practicing things and like making complex decisions and like having a strategy, but without like the ramifications of the outside world. Like I couldn't imagine going back to work right now and like doing my job, because like if I messed up, which I probably would do, like that would have serious impact on like me, my job, and where I work. But if I'm just playing like a game of Splendor, if I pick the wrong card, does it matter? No.
Mm,
It's like a way of like gradually building confidence as well, as I think, in like, oh yeah, okay, I remember how to do this. Like I can think clearly, like the brain fog is clearing and I can
yeah.
actually like focus on something.
And hello, you Rowan. It is lovely to see you. And yeah, it's very good. Um, so yeah, kind of. So we've talked a little bit about the benefits of post-maternity gaming. With where did it go? How can it be good for something to enjoy, for some sorts of building up your own confidence, for kind of almost training and building up those muscles as well.
Hmm.
And also, I guess building up your confidence does also go into testing yourself. Like, are you actually able to focus on, bit a task that's a bit more complicated, even for like half an hour or whatever? And so that's. Is there ways that it can be bad?
I think it can be difficult, like if you're in the middle of a game and like you're really getting started. Like I think we were setting up Glenmore, the first game we played on Monday night, and we'd got it set up and we were like playing our first turn, and then Rowan decided that he was hungry. So then you have to like almost deal with this slight frustration of the fact that you're not going to be able to carry on. And I think that is something that like parents struggle with, but aren't necessarily as open about, is that sometimes you are just really fed up with the fact that they won't stop crying, or they're like interrupting something that you think is important, but in the grand scheme of things doesn't really matter. Um, and like you have to then think, okay, no, I need to mentally pause my game brain and I need to go into mum brain and I need to get food ready for him. We can feed him, get him settled, and then we can come back. I think it's all about like you need to be able to adjust your expectations of like what you're going to be able to do and what they're going to like allow you to do.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is so just it's basically about being aware of, okay, you are going to have finite time, that at some point you are going to have to interrupt this game,
Mhm.
and just yeah, putting a limit maybe, or making sure that the game can just stay up there on the
Mhm.
table. I guess that comes down to a privilege thing. Like, do you
Mm.
have a table where if there is an emergency you can just leave it set up for a
Mm.
while? Or
Yeah, well, we have a dining table slash gaming table slash desk. So it's very multi-purpose. We did try and leave Glenmore set up, but the cat decided that he wanted to knock all the meeples off the table, because he wasn't getting enough attention. So yeah, we are lucky to have a place where we can like set it up and leave it, and it's mostly undisturbed, apart from a rampaging kitten. Um, but yeah, I think it could be bad if you weren't able to like turn on that separation. Like if you always like let yourself get really wrapped up in something and then become hyper focused on it, and then you kind of direct any frustration at the person that's distracting you. I think that was when it would become an issue.
Ooh.
But if you're
Yeah,
able to like cut that off, then it's not.
I guess that is a really good point that you made, kind of making sure that rather than treating the interruption as, oh, this terrible thing, treat it as, okay, this is a thing that is going to happen, and
Hmm.
making sure that you don't have, because, I'm going on a date. Actually, I'm not going. Okay, I've been speaking to someone who I'm not going to say who it is, who has yeah, been saying that, yeah, sometimes they do crave that adult and by adults I just mean, someone who's able to talk about politics, or someone who's able to talk about equality and things like that, and having that sort of adult conversation, having something that's stimulating to their mind, because whilst raising a child is very challenging, it's not got the same sort of nourishment. And so that is something that as adults we crave. And so certainly if you're a single parent, that can be incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
It's so, yeah, remembering to separate those two things, and remembering that, and what's your take on genuinely about games that are quite noisy? Like, presumably, I mean, Wibble, it's probably best at free, but would you play a noisy game at...
I think we don't really have any noisy two-player games, but I think he sleeps so heavily. Like, we can hoover, we can watch a film, like we have music on like nearly constantly, and he will sleep through it all. Nothing really wakes him up because he was used to all the noise in the hospital. So if we had a noisy game at 2, then we probably would play it. It doesn't really affect how we do things. And if he is awake and kind of like looking around and maybe a bit bored, we'll sit him on our laps and just let him watch because he really likes looking at the bright colours. Like, he sat on my mum's lap while she played Reef, and then he sat on my lap while we played Orbis a while ago as well. Like, and he was just like transfixed by all the brightly coloured tiles.
And hello Jess, it's lovely to see you. And so, just finishing off with how post-maternity gaming goes, it sounds like we're starting to get into the tips of having bright colors and things like that everyone can enjoy, even if they are 5 months old.
Yeah, I think, like, if he's asleep, you just leave him to it, like take advantage of the quiet and play a game. If he's awake and he's bored, then yeah, if we have something brightly coloured that he can look at, then he'll just happily sit on your lap and watch for a whole game. I don't know if that's normal. I don't know if that's other parents' experience, but it's our experience. So I think that's useful. I think if we put him in front of like a boring, like grey board, he would get a bit fed up. But if you've got like brightly coloured cubes, and especially with something like Reef with those like really brightly coloured coral pieces, then he loves it.
Oh, yeah. And do you ever do something that is about letting them fiddle with the pieces, or does that not really come into what you do?
I think at the moment he's a little bit too small. I think he would probably try and eat and swallow the Reef pieces. But he does have some toys that he could hold while like we're playing. I think when he gets a little bit older, it'll get to that point where like he could hold something while we do it. But at the moment, he's not like quite developmentally there.
So, we've got so yeah, as we start to think about winding down, what advice would you have for people who, have just had a child, or indeed, I guess it's maybe, is the word prenatal? That's
Postnatal.
no,
Or is it
prenatal,
whale?
like just before you're born. I was going to say we could
Is it
briefly touch.
prenatal? I can't remember what it's called. When you're pregnant, let's call it that.
So basically, like, if someone maybe I don't know who's going to watch this who hasn't played any board games before, but I mean, if you're watching this, let's be honest, I'm assuming that you've played some sorts of board games before, and hopefully you don't need to be convinced of the virtues of them. But maybe what we've talked about is like that there are some benefits to having board games as a constant in your life, no matter when you are. And when we're talking about like playing board games, you talk about holding the baby and making sure that you can continue to play the game whilst holding the baby. So
Mhm.
presumably dexterity games are right out.
That would be a challenge. He loves like hitting the table. So yeah, Rhino Hero, like anything like that, it will be destroyed.
Although maybe for when Rowan is asleep, if you because given it doesn't take too long. Although I don't know, do you think that wanting to play deeper and more challenging games is because you want to have a different type of experience? So maybe Rhino Hero wouldn't scratch that same itch for you. To get what I mean?
Yeah, I think Rhino Hero we usually play at like Christmas with like my family, because it's a really great way to like involve all generations in the family without like getting into like really complicated rules. Um, but yeah, I think at the moment I'm wanting those like heavier gameplay experiences because I'm wanting to challenge myself a bit more, and I feel like confident doing that. Whereas when we first started playing games again, like there's no way I could have considered playing something that was quite challenging because I just wouldn't have been able to get my head around it. Yeah.
And Jeroen says, while playing, I made sure to involve my daughter. Now she's older, she's playing with us and
Mm,
likes it. And Alan Outson wonders what board game has the youngest age range. I mean, I know that I would imagine it's one of the Habba things, but that
mm.
if we think about in real terms, not just what's on the box, but what games could you actually get people to play first. Um, there is one game by Knizia. I don't know if you know this one. Um, Arguably, it's not a game, but it's and it's out of print sadly. But basically, you've got monkeys, okay? I can't remember the name of this, but I should ask Nick Pittman. I should have done some research. But yeah, Haba has a bunch of 2 to 3 year olds. Um, but Knizia has this game where you take monkeys out of a bag. If it's your color of monkey, then you get to put it on your board. If it's someone else's color of monkey, you have to give it to them.
Oh,
But
okay.
if you put it on your board, hooray, you've got something on your board, and then you pass the bag on, and it's first to fill their board wins.
Mhm.
And then if you give it to someone else, you get to have another go. So it's like, and Nick Pittman wrote a very long review talking about how this was like genius game design because it's got colorful monkeys in it. The pieces are like all bright and distinct. And whatever happens, you feel a sense of success. Either
Mm.
you put it on your board, hey, you win, or you get another turn, hooray. And also, and this is a key thing, for parents, you can skew the odds in the child's favor. Maybe if
Ah.
they've been like not playing at all, you might actually make it literally impossible for the adults to win by taking some of the monkeys out. And I think it's something like there were 6 monkeys to win and there's 8 monkeys in the bag. So you might say, okay, there's 6 monkeys for the adults, there's 8 monkeys for the child. Like, see how they respond to it. But yeah, there's a lot of things. Um, oh, is it Monkey Madness? Is that by Rainer Knizia? I will let me somewhat. Can you entertain people while I do some live?
I think uh there we go. I someone had a question for me which was said, do you like party games as just one playing with no board game players? Um I do quite enjoy some party games, but then it really depends on the group. And at the moment, for obvious reasons, we're not really seeing many other people. But we do play games like that when we're like at Christmas is the most time that we get together with our families, and it's like my younger sibling, my mum, my dad, both sets of grandparents, like all in one room, and finding a game that all of them can enjoy is quite challenging. I think we've managed code names and we've managed in a bind. My granddad loved in a bind. He got really, really competitive, and decided to like because he couldn't physically pick up another card with his hands, so he picked it up with his mouth. He was so determined to win. Um, yeah, so I don't mind playing with people who don't play board games. And then like I taught my mum how to play Wingspan like last week, and she's not a board gamer at all, but she got to grips with it and she won in the end.
And Yes, Maggie is absolutely right. Thank you very much. And here is my friend's review, Nick Pittman from Glasgow. You can read that review. Here's a couple of images that copying is allowed for. Thank you for these people, Sincero, and who allowed copying on Board Game Geek. So these are some children enjoying the game of Monkey Madness, where you pull the monkeys out of a bag. It's a really
That
nice
looks really
game.
cute.
Yeah. And so yeah, it's absolutely Monkey Madness. And thank you for for reminding us, Maggie. And Alex says started mine off with Hungry as a Bear from Haba. Jess enjoyed Hungry Hippos, which to be fair, there's something nice about just slamming that thing. In Hungry as a Bear, you're feeding a cardboard bear with cardboard spoon.
Oh, that sounds
Um,
so cute.
and Jess does point out, yes, the problem with Hungry Hippos is there are small pieces, and by today's standards, that feels quite problematic. Could be a choking hazard. And
Yeah, because
oh, sorry.
it's just that because I know with like, is it CE ratings? Usually the game has to be rated higher than like the cognitive age because of pieces.
I'm not
So like
familiar
a
with the
game
ratings.
could be played by a younger person, but the risk is that they would like put something in their mouth that they shouldn't.
Yeah, I saw this. Yeah, there's this tube that I kind of was shown at a London Toy Fair. Maybe it was 2 years ago that they showed. Hey, basically, if it goes through really easily, it's not a choking hazard. If it can't go through at
Oh,
all, it is a choking hazard because they made this tube that was their free giveaway. That was basically the same size as a child's throat.
that's
So
smart.
basically, you can work out how to not choke
Choke a
a
child.
child. Yeah,
It's an
basically.
important skill.
Yeah, exactly. If you're manufacturing thousands of copies of games, damn straight you want to. And even if it's an adult game, let's be honest, that's super important.
Yeah, those
Because
wingspan eggs. Oh, those wingspan eggs I would put in my mouth without without hesitation. They look so delicious. It's not fair.
Andrew January says Emily and Andrew developed an ungame where you hand cards back and forth to each other and laugh. I think that would work pretty well for young children. I assume that there's some sort of rules to it. But I mean, I remember an ungame that I played with, with the L deck when my nibbling was maybe 4 years old. I would say, okay, this is what an A looks like. Okay, here's the sheets of paper. Hey, look, just to show you, this is what an A looks like. Here you go. Here's an A. Now there are 6 A's. Can you find all of them? And so we'd kind of count, oh, you found one. Hey, there's 5 more. And then they'd maybe struggle and I'd kind of shuffle them around to say, oh, maybe there's one around here because otherwise they'd kind of give up. And then over the course of maybe 4 days or something, we'd work through the alphabet and then we'd start again. And I think that's helped them with, their being able to read. And that sort of playing with the pieces is super important and being creative. Yeah. So in a bind, that's a good game. Who made that one? And now known as Yogi, I should say.
True, yeah.
Yep. Oh, it's just arrived at 3 a.m. Wow, you're up super late, but it's lovely to have you. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you have a very nice sleep. Good night, Maggie. Yep, and yep. Sorry, what is Britain's? Oh, I'm taking chocolate digestives. Britain's favorite biscuits. Oh, apparently Andrew January literally listed all the rules. The only rule is that you pass
Pass back
cards and then you
laugh.
need to laugh. And yep, absolutely. Still do not encourage children to put their pieces in their mouth, but it might be something that just happens. And so, yeah. What else do we need to cover?
Were we
think
talking about
that's
tips?
yeah. We were getting to tips. Did we
Mm.
have any more tips for anyone?
I think it's mostly about. I think games are really great for like pre and post natal. I think pre, it's really good. So like you're still like exercising your brain and like thinking about other things, because I think you can get very fixated on like the one big thing that's happening. And I think it's good to have a distraction from that. Otherwise, I know I would certainly get into a big old spiral and just not be able to think about anything else. And I think post, it's a really great way of like gradually building up your confidence and realizing like, oh, I can do something other than just look after this small screaming baby. And like you said, it's a really great way to like refresh your memory on how to like communicate with your partner again as well, because that can get
Yeah.
lost. Like when you're dealing with like relentlessly with like quite a stressful situation, you can forget how to do that sometimes. And I think being able to play games and like rebuild that connection is really important.
Yeah, I mean, it's building connections with those around you, with your partner, and potentially even other friends. I mean, in this, yeah, in normal times, maybe we would be meeting with other people, and that might be an opportunity to, if you can, occasionally invite someone over. I know that for a family that I used to game with, um, so this was actually with Nick Pittman and also Ian and all other people from Glasgow. And Ian and Julia had this sweet one called Lev. Should it, yeah, I hope it's not too confidential to just give names of people. I don't think. So I just worry about kind of sharing information about other people.
Mm,
But what I was going to say was that yeah, went in and having other people who are able to come to your house but say, hey, just now, please be quiet, please phone us rather than ring the bell if that's something that you want to
mm,
do. Saying, okay, while we're playing, we do have someone who's sleeping next door. So please, don't shout too loudly. But we are having here to have fun. So, we do want to allow ourselves to be a little bit excited,
mm,
and you can still have people over. I mean, you can obviously make friends via, there's quite often networks of parents, or whether it's meeting via the school that your child goes to, or even before through the classes that you've been
mhm.
to, or whatever. But also just the friends that you've gathered before. It doesn't mean that you suddenly should lose touch with them.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
it's really important that you have something to congregate over. And even if those games, they might change in tone a little bit, that's okay. I think that you can have adaptations to make
Mm.
things still work.
Yeah, I think that's part of, I think what I didn't necessarily realize before Rowan Tech came along is like how much it completely changes your perspective on everything. Like I was very career focused and like really passionate about my job, and Rowan's come along and I've just kind of like pushed that to the back. Like it doesn't really matter to me as much anymore. Um, but then that made me feel like I'd lost my identity because I defined myself by like my job. And so you're in this like weird limbo where you don't really care about that thing anymore, but then that thing used to be so important. And like, oh, who am I now? Like, what do I do? I don't want to just be a mum because I'm more
Hmm.
than that. I'm like a I'm a three-dimensional being. I'm not just a mother. Um, so I think like games are important for that as well, because it's something to talk to someone about that's not about your baby. Like it's like I'm not talking about his nappies, I'm not talking about what he's eaten, I'm not talking about how much he's been sick today. Like I'm just playing a game and I'm just being me. And I think
Yeah.
that sometimes you can feel like you've lost that. So it's really great to be able to like do something completely unrelated.
And yeah, that's an important thing, that you don't always want the conversation to be driven by, this new person that's
Mhm.
emerged into the world. I mean, yes, that's a massive thing, but it doesn't mean that it has to be the focus 24/7.
Yeah.
And um, I mean, maybe I don't know why 60 24/7 isn't, or maybe it should be 60 24/7, sort of saying like every second you're thinking of them. Because
It
that
does
can
feel
be,
like that.
and yeah, this has been such a lovely chat. Thank you very much. Um, Now, to recap, I think that we can talk about. It sounds like you've just got a wonderful relationship and communication going on with Lewis.
Or
Sorry,
Lulu. It's okay. You can steal his nickname. That's fine.
oh, I didn't realize that was
Yeah,
nickname.
I call him Lulu.
Okay. Um, but yeah, congratulations on that to you and also Lewis, because yeah, it's really important to have that healthy relationship. I think before anything, like if this is a, I mean, this isn't a relationship podcast, but it is kind of, because board games are about relationships. You know what I mean? Board games are about the people, and even when you're playing a solo board games are about your emotional experiences, and kind of then having a story that you then maybe want to share with other people, or a memory that you forged, and yeah, board games are not just, you know, yeah, even if you're hammering on a hippo, it's about connecting with the other person who's hammering on the hippo, or remembering that this is a thing that you used to do with in your childhood.
Mhm.
And it's about so to recap, we were talking, if you can help me out a little bit, to recap, what were we talking about?
We're talking about kind of like coming back to gaming after having a baby and how it can be good in building relationships and like building up your confidence and like just reawakening the brain after
Mm,
like being in a kind of like sludge for a little while, and how sometimes like it could be a little bit bad if you get too like hyper focused on the game and then suddenly you see the thing that's distracting you, like your baby, as
mm,
like an inconvenience, and you have to like really work to not have that reaction, like unprogram that little bit of your brain,
yeah.
to make sure that you don't like get frustrated.
But then going back to the good, we also talked about how it is building up your confidence. It's building up your yeah, everything. It's giving you a new way to communicate. And then we had some tips, which was, yeah, Habba games are amazing.
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
I'd say start small, start with like a really simple game at first, because I know I found it really overwhelming, like trying to learn a game again, and then just build it up. And like for the first time ever, I'm the one that's pushing Lewis to play games with me. Before he'd
Oh,
be like, "Oh, can we play a game? Can we play a game? Can we play a game?" And I'd be like, "No, I'm too tired." And now I'm the one that's like an irritating little toddler, like, "Oh, can we play this? Can we play this? Can we play this?" So it's, yeah, you just need to like build up your appetite for it again and not expect you to go back to the place that you were in before.
um, so I feel like thank yous should be at the end. I'm going to change this. I don't like the thank yous being in the middle. Um, Sorry, there we go. That's better. Okay, so yeah, so to wrap up, I think we've recapped everything.
I think so.
And then to wrap up, hello to Tally, who's just made it. So you've missed the discussion, but you can go back and watch it. I think this has been an amazing discussion, and apparently we've both got kind of matching
Stripey.
shirts, which is kind of true because we've both got straps. Like you've got dungarees, I've just got a vest on, but they're both striped. It's kind of true. Xate and Jess were totally just here for the relationships. And yep, there we go. And Alan Alton, as a child, me and my siblings ended lots of games throwing things at each other. I'm a very good thrower as a con. um, yeah, and Emily, you are so right. I had a period when I had problems focusing on the game because my daughter was distracting me. And so, yeah, I want to give a quick thank you to everyone who has been watching. So thank you to Tally, to Javier, to to Alan, Alex, Sate, Andrew, January, Jess. Have I said Jerome? I don't think I said Jerome. And of course to Maggie, who jumped in earlier and is now hopefully sleeping very well. If you are watching this after the fact, hi Maggie, and I hope that you're generally well. If you want to find us, I can be found on stuffbybeds.com, which is my main website. Stuffbybeds.bigcartel.com is the way to buy stuff. Twitter.com/stuffbybeds if you want constant streams of tweets, because I tweet a lot. Instagram.com/stuffbybeds, which is a bit more curated and pictures of things I make, things I'm working on, things I've enjoyed. Twitch.tv is my streaming thing, best place to watch my streaming. Facebook.com/beds is a thing, and stuffbybeds@gmail.com if you want to get in touch via email. And Emily, where can people get in touch with you?
So Braincrack Games is at Braincrack Games on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. That's our lovely website with all our shiny games. Venice, which is the game at the top, is up for pre-order at the moment. Oh, look at that. You're so on it, Bez. So you can pre-order. We're expecting that to be delivered in like autumn 2020. We had some delays with COVID and the early baby situation, but we're working on it. You can find me at CEmily Clay on Twitter, where I just tweet about whatever's making me angry, usually.
And yeah, that is us. And so there is, looking forward to hopes and ambitions. It's over to you for this final section. I get to the end and then I'm actually quite delighted by this bit, because it's like, yay, we get to talk for that 5 minutes longer, where it's, life can be hard, but also life can be delightful. And life can be bad, life can be good, life can be very just like it should be. I don't know. Anyway, so the point is that what are you looking forward to, whether it's today, whether it's tomorrow, what fills you with joy as opposed to sorrow? Yeah, that seems like setting the bar really low, not being sorrowful about a thing. So, yeah, whether it's today, tomorrow, next week, have something in your heart to look forward to. And I know we've already had, Alan out. Sorry, did I say this is kind of, once I start wrapping up, sorry, the questions, it's a bit much. I mean, you were the person, come on, Alan, you were the person who wanted these to be shorter. And so you are, like 80 minutes in, and you are coming in with more questions. I tweet a lot, it's an understatement. Looking forward to my flight. I hope that you have a wonderful flight. Jess is heading up to the north of Thailand. We've heard a lot about it. It sounds exciting, and I love you too. Yeah, if this is for me, Twitter is the most busy, and which is the most useful is up to you. That's my answer for that, and I'm not parking it. You can remind me on an appropriate day. Sorry, I'm kind of running a tight ship. I'm trying to run a tight ship and make sure that I finish at the 90-minute mark. It's my new modus operandi. I'm like being super organized and boom, straight to the point. Yeah, but the show after the idea of 75 minutes max lasted almost 3 hours. Wait, what? Maybe, I mean, just because I mess up once doesn't mean that I want to keep messing up again. And Alex is looking forward to making a new prototype. I am looking forward to. I'm looking forward to seeing Chris and McCall on Monday, and I'm looking forward to. I know it's a bit in the future. I'm looking forward to seeing my parents in 2 weeks' time, which is going to be exciting. I'm going to make sure that the week before I do keep myself quite far from other people in general and take extra precautions. So yeah, those are two things a bit off in the distance, but those are two things that I am looking forward to. How about yourself? And yeah, Emily.
Lewis's parents are going to come and see us next Saturday. We're going to go to like a local garden near us. It will be the first time we've seen them since March. So that'll be really nice. And the gardens we're going to are really pretty. They have like these amazing hydrangea flower beds, and I love hydrangeas. So I'm looking forward to that.
Aw, that sounds amazing. And so as we wrap up, as we finish our wrap up of the wrap up, even share, spread the word. The next streams are going to be tomorrow, which I need to put in the thing. Appropriating cultures with Jay from 3 Minute Board Games. Saturday is going to be what is arts direction with Emily's partner, Lewis Shaw. And then Sunday is going to be a solo thing. And yeah, I could either talk about what is a good contract, because some people asked me about that, and I did write an article, but I could just like talk through it and give a bit more information based on having signed a couple more contracts since that and worked with some more people, or I could do something inspired by Irish person Antoinette Mason, Board Game Inquisition. And Board Game Inquisitor, who suggested having a sort of manifesto, which is going to be, this is what I am trying to do. So let me know if you have any votes. I will decide that potentially right now if anyone suggests anything. Oh yeah, man, I'm hoping that as well. So we've got hydrangeas are indeed beautiful, and I'm also hoping a game submission is chosen by the festival team. That would be awesome. No, we cannot stay online for another 90 minutes. But you can, get Jess's contact details and get in touch. I'm sorry, Jess. We can have a chat channel if you want. But yeah, indeed, safe flights. Oh my gosh, Jess might not make their flight. That's not good. I'll keep my fingers crossed, and I don't want to distract you. Once you get out of the taxi, you just want to get on it. Get on it. Get on it. Yeah. And it would be nice to have something to look at to see who you are speaking to next. Oh, okay, I get what you mean. You want to have a sort of schedule for my things. That does exist. If you go to my Twitter, so just to say, if you go to, sorry, Emily, I'm keeping you.
That's all right.
So twitter.com/stuffbybez. If you go to that page, then on the top, if you're interested in my dreams, I suggest you check out my Google Calendar. Click on that link, and that has all my streams. So yeah, you get to. I am doing something at 10 a.m. every day, even when it's blank. This just means I haven't decided yet. And so yeah, meeting Stella from Meatpool University. You can see all the things, and I will share that link in the chat, in the Twitch chat. If you're everywhere somewhere else, yeah. So got to go back to work today on Tabletop Simulator. That's perfect. You're very welcome. I'm glad that I was able to work out what you meant, and thank you for watching along, Yellow Pigeon. I don't know who you are, but it's an interesting name, and wow, that's a cool stencil. I like that, negative space. So the last thing to do is to say bye. Oh, sorry, did you have anything left to say before we finish?
No.
Bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye. This is the end of the show. Bye. And now it's time to go. Bye. bye, bye, bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye-bye.
Bye.